curry. My wife is not a fan of curry, so this is how I can get away with it. Because it's curry flavoring without any of the heat. True curry is a combination of about 7 different herbs with hot peppers mixed into it. So it's got some kick to it. Well, you can't get too much kick for me. I grow lots of hot peppers. But this smells like curry. For those of you, for a growing aspect of this, you treat it exactly like you do rosemary. It loves a hot, dry, sunny location. The plant will get just as big as rosemary. It's just silver color. It is perennial, yes. Salad greens, funky things for salads. We have salad Burnett, it's a cucumber substitute. Leaves taste just like a cucumber, have no acid, no gas reaction to them. Salad Burnett. Red chicory is an Italian green. It will work as a lettuce. Sometimes it gets red spots in it, sometimes it gets a red vein to it. Just kind of depends on how it's bred. It's a cousin to actual regular chicory, which is a much bitterer leaf, because true chicory used the root as a coffee substitute. This is just not as bitter as a green. Sorrel is another neat one to throw in a salad. It is just nothing but straight out lemon flavor. It's not sour, but it's a definite lemon little zing to it. It makes a great soup also, sorrel soup. And in the islands, they make a tea called sorrel tea, but it's not from this. It's from a plant kind of like the hibiscus. It's called Jamaican sorrel, which is it's a red pod that they use to make their sorrel tea with. Another one you can put in a salad, lovage. Tastes like celery. Lovage will grow here in Florida. It just has to be grown in a container. You cannot put it in the ground. It will die. Just like onion chives will die in the ground, garlic chives will not. Yes? Flavor. I grow Mexican tarragon. French tarragon hates Florida swamp also. It will grow in the winter. It will not handle the summers. But this one will grow year round. Tarragon is kind of a lost herb, so to speak. It's one I've really gotten to enjoy playing with. Use it a lot in meatloaf, for example. You've got all your other things in your meatloaf that you found laying around in the kitchen, cleaning out the refrigerator. Throw a teaspoon or 2 of tarragon in at the end as you're mixing it up. You really won't taste much of the tarragon when you make it, but what it does is it enhances and brings out all the other herbs you put in. It just highlights all the other flavors.
Dennis, I'm sorry, did you say the Mexican tarragon is the one that grows year-round?
Yes.
Thank you.
Cilantro is another popular plant. It's one of the things people either like it or hate it. Some people say it tastes like soap. Some people really enjoy it. True cilantro is from the mountains of Mexico. It's already too hot in Florida to grow it. Everybody says they keep killing it. Well, as a grower, I kill it too. Little history on cilantro. It is from the mountains of Mexico. Its average life is 35 days. Its growing temperature is no more than 70 degrees. So every degree over 70 shortens the life of that plant. To give you an idea from a grower standpoint, growing it in the heat of the summer, you can plant a seed, temperatures 95 to 105 degrees. In 15 to 18 days, that seed has grown and gone back to seed. So for people that are very die-hard parsley leaf cilantro people, I always recommend that Publix is a great place. They have it every day. You always can walk in and get it. But for you trying to grow it, the have for a recipe you're planning a week ahead is going to be really iffy. Rely on Publix, they'll always have it. I grow two alternatives to it. One is called culantro, or broadleaf cilantro. This is native to Puerto Rico, loves the heat. Does not like the Florida sun. You can grow it in morning sun, afternoon filtered light. This is the seed pod. When you see the seed pod come up on it, cut it off, throw it away. Or you could put it in a food processor and chop it up, but it's very prickly like a thistle. The leaves on it have the same flavor as cilantro. The edges, when the leaf gets really big, that edge gets a little sharp and spiny. Trim it off with a knife on your cutting board, chop up the center part, you wouldn't know you didn't have cilantro in your dish. Tastes the exact same. Another version for it is called Vietnamese coriander. It's a very mild cilantro, kind of a cross between parsley and cilantro. I can sneak this one in some of the dishes I do because my wife hates cilantro. This one I can sneak in and she'll say, it's got a little bit of cilantro in it, but it's not too bad. This one, the wetter the condition, the more aggressive this one grows. You could actually put this like in a bird bath or a fish tank and it would take over the world. Full sun stays very tight, compact, and low. Put this in filtered light or shade and it will crawl up to be waist or chest high, and it crawls all over everything. It is a perennial. It does not like temperatures below 40 on the research I did on this, but this past year it was in 22-degree weather one night, 20-degree one night, and 18 one night for me. On my benches, uncovered, it got fried, but that's what it looks like 2 months after. It came back from it quite well.
And then, how did you spell the other cilantro?
My baking basil, because it's not in front of me. My favorite basil to bake with is cinnamon basil. Cinnamon basil has a very unique, great aroma, and I spent quite a bit of time trying to come up with something to cook with it. Well, a friend of mine had given me a basil recipe from the Herb Society down in West Palm Beach. So to me, I just incorporated in cinnamon basil, and it's become my wife's favorite. I use the flowers on the cinnamon basil because it's got more flavor than the leaves. But I have a cinnamon basil pistachio nut cookie that I have recipes for. I actually have a few of the cookies with me of that, but as a forewarning, this one came out. Something went weird with the recipe I made. I've made this tons of times. This one, the cookies are like rock hard. Break it in half, break it in quarters, put it in your mouth and it softens right up. You get the flavor. But for some reason, the cookie just is hard as a rock. It just baffled me because I don't know what caused it from baking. Because nothing's any different than it's been in the past. But the other one of my favorites for baking with are mints. You can do, besides tea, mints can be used in lots of things. Spearmint goes in a mojito. Kentucky Colonel goes in a mint julep for the Kentucky Derby. And then you can get fancy. I grow 35 different kinds of mint. There are over 200 different flavors on the market right now. You can do a fancy peanut or a fancy mojito using pineapple rum with use coconut rum with it instead of clear rum, and you can make your own pina colada mojito. Another one is chocolate mint. You guys go to Starbucks in the morning, you get a cup of mocha coffee, spend $4.50. I'll serve you coffee in my booth all day long for $4.50. Give you a mocha coffee. All it takes is approximately 3 leaves off a chocolate mint plant. Put it in your coffee, let it steep, and it will give you that mocha flavoring in your cup of coffee. The other wonderful thing with chocolate mint, put it in chocolate chip cookie. It makes a green cookie, but if I put a blindfold on you, I bet you can't tell the difference between my chocolate chip and a Girl Scout Thin Mint. And I won't charge you $3.50 for a dozen cookies.
The donation.
The other thing with like mint, English mint makes a really nice muffin, like a breakfast muffin. You can do lots of things with mint. It's kind of endless besides your teeth. Squirrel running through.
Oh,
A new guest. That's a little tight. Out on his first stroll by himself. He smelled one of his buddies buried an acorn in one of my pots. If I had my dog here, she'd have lunch. Mint, with a lot of people, they have a hard time with mint. They'll say they struggle with it. It dies. Mint should not die on you in Florida. It also doesn't need as much water as everybody thinks, because mint likes the moisture, but Florida's a swamp, as it is. Our air is very wet and humid. This is actually a very tall mint naturally. This should get about another 6 to 8 inches taller yet. This is called double mint. It's a double strength peppermint. It's very, very strong. But when mint gets root bound in the pot, I love this part of it. I watch everybody cringe when I do this. At least every 4 months in the nursery, basically, we go out and take all of the mints out of their pots and give them a haircut. Every time they get tall, it's time to cut them back. That's how I've opened my line of baking. I got tired of throwing all these buckets of mint leaves into the compost pile or into my burn pit and burning them. I came up with things to do with it. This is double mint, but do the same thing with any of them. Cut it off right at the dirt line. Everybody go, man, it's dead. No. Mint doesn't need a leaf. Mint is a root. It's a runner. If you do not restrict the root on a mint, it will never put a leaf up out of the ground. I have had people tell me that they've put mint in the ground. And you put this has got good soil underneath the grass here. It's got a little bit of meat to it. Realistically, what we have in Florida, we're the bottom of everything. Everything flowed downhill. Well, you know what's at the bottom when it comes downhill. Stuff you really can't say you can grow anything. So realistically, most places you could put a mint out in the middle of the field, and everybody says it disappeared, it died. Well, it disappeared, it didn't die. It hit this nice, wonderful beach sand we have out here under the ground. It travels for 30 to 50 feet under the ground, and then it'll put a leaf up. When it hits a tree root, it hits the road, your neighbor's house, something like that. It's got, anytime it has a restriction, it'll come out of the ground. Otherwise, there's no reason for it to come out of the ground. It'll just keep traveling. I've watched it travel for probably 50, 60 feet before, from where it was planted, before it ever produced a leaf anywhere. But in 3 weeks, after cutting that off, it'll look like that.
So how do you grow it here then?
Keep it in a container. Always has to live its life in a container. You can put it in a big pot, but in this size pot, at least once every 2 years, you have to physically take it out of the pot, cut it in quarters, cut it in half, cut it in thirds, and put it back in the pot. Otherwise, it will get root bound and choke itself to death.
Water-wise?
Every other day.
Do you ever prune the roots?
If they go back in a container, yes, I'll prune them.